funny. Let's bring in our gaggle Democratic strategist and former spokesman for the DCCC, Doug Thornell. Mattie Duppler.
You almost had it.
I almost stuck with Americans for Tax Reform and the Washington Post and Kornblut. What really happened yesterday at the Clinton event, the other big political event, Vice President Biden, Hillary Clinton, hanging out there. Doug, I want to ask about sort of this, what Biden's been doing and what Hillary's been doing. Biden is preparing to run in case.
Yeah.
He's sort of the in case of emergency national candidate.
Yeah. What he's planning is the be ready to campaign. He's putting, I think, the elements together. He's traveling to Iowa. He's going to some of the places.
He's doing all the little things.
Right.
That Hillary's not doing. She doesn't have to.
Right. She controls the tempo of this race. And I think she can get in as late as you possibly can. She's got a national organization that's right now a little bit dormant. But is ready to go. She can raise, I wouldn't be surprised if she raised $50, $100 million the first day she announced. Right. She's got universal name ID. She controls the tempo. And it's not just Biden. It's O'Malley, it's Cuomo, it's the other people that have been floated that are going to look at her move. If she doesn't get in, you're going to see a larger field. If she gets in, I think you're going to see basically her and maybe one other Democrat who tries to run to her left.
Mattie, what do you think? What do you make of the Clinton Palooza that we have every year? And it seems this year just seems a little bit bigger, and part of it is the fact that Hillary Clinton's involved.
Right. Well, and I think the conversation about kind of the dynastic presidency that we heard first with Barbara Bush saying, I think we've had enough of that, is an interesting aspect that Democrats don't seem to have a problem with. They're happy to see a Clinton run again.
They did have a problem with it 6 years ago. Now they don't.
It's because of everything Doug is saying. Like, she's a very strong candidate. She has huge name ID. She presents probably the most formidable foe to any Republican running.
And she's got Bill Clinton.
And she's got Bill Clinton. She's got that secret weapon in her back pocket. So she will have a strong campaign. As a Republican, I look forward to seeing her campaign because I think she would actually present a very strong one, and it would be a good debate to have coming off of the partisan politics that we're for sure to see over the rest of Obama's term.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, but Ann, I'm just sitting there going, so what you're saying, Mattie, is that Clinton's going Clinton's going to run and it's not going to be partisan?
Hillary Clinton, she's going to bring it. She's a great healer. That's what she always wants.
I'm sorry, we're 24 years of polarization.
And
whether it's been a Bush, a Clinton, or now an Obama.
And Hillary Clinton once seemed to personify it, whether
but
it was
she was
her
the
fault
most
or not.
polarizing of them all for a year.
President Obama has made me nostalgic for the Clintons at this point because of what we've
And you know what's going to happen, and Ann, you know this is true. After 1 year of the Hillary Clinton presidency, you're going to hear conservatives go, boy, I miss the days of when Barack Obama was offering X. It happens all the time. It's like Democrats claiming they now miss Bush. That always happens.
What Democrats
you miss, but at least with Bush, she was this or something like that.
Right, but I can't quite yet jump to the end of the first year of the Clinton presidency because I still want to see what's going to happen in a Democratic primary. She didn't get through it last time. She is always at her best when she's not running for anything and when she's not actually doing anything.
Right.
There may not.
And there's no health care getting out there.
Frankly, who's the John Edwards? I'm talking about. Before all the business. But I mean, who's even that level?
That may all be true.
Only if Biden runs, and I just don't assume Biden runs. I'm saying I'm setting him aside. I mean, obviously, if he ran, that's a different story.
I actually think that Clinton actually got very good towards the end of that campaign. I mean, when you look at Ohio, Texas, Pennsylvania, some of the big states, she did a.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. So I think that's what that was.
But I think she found her voice. Now, ultimately, I think you're right. It's going to be interesting to see how she positions herself. I wouldn't be surprised if saw someone like Elizabeth Warren jump in and maybe try to play, take her on the left. But, it's hers right now. She's going to control the tempo. I'm not saying she's going to win the nomination, but she's in the driver's seat.
Look, Doug, I'm with you. I think my bet's always been secretly on Jerry Brown. That if no one else does it, he'll do it to make a point. And don't forget, Jerry Brown and the Clintons don't get along. And Howard Dean.
I still think it's possible she could be her own worst enemy. I actually think the best thing that could happen to her would be to have some kind of opponent that she could defeat rather than hanging out there for a whole year, 2 years, 3 years, lots of stories, looking into her businesses, her having to run a campaign.
But Mattie, here's the thing that could benefit Hillary Clinton the most, is that it looks like the Republican side will be much more
divisive. A very strong bench. Look at all the governors that we have.
But be divisive. You're going to have clear contrast.
But not in the way that we're seeing Republican Party be divisive on the Hill right now. If you have a Christie Walker debate, it's going to be very informed. It's going to be very intellectual. It's not going to be focused on filibusters that last 21 hours.
And if you have Christie and Rand Paul?
It'll be even more fun.
Okay. Much more with the gaggle coming up. Under an hour, President Obama becomes part traveling salesman, part explainer-in-chief, pitching health care and laying out exactly what he believes consumers can expect when they start to sign up for the marketplace exchanges next Tuesday. But will this latest push help the president attract people to his plan? Because that's really what this is about. Let's bring back our gaggle, Doug Thornell, Mattie Duppler, and Ann Kornblut. Mattie, you coming from the conservative side, a lot of Democrats are sitting here and saying, you know, this criticism from conservatives is simply because they're afraid it's going to work.
Well, also the criticism is coming from people who are in charge of implementing this law. You've heard from many states with Democrats at the helm that their exchanges aren't ready. And we still don't know what the federal exchange looks like. You know, all signs point to the fact that this law is not ready. So if you are someone who actually believes that Obamacare is going to benefit the nation, you should probably be uncomfortable, too, with the idea that this is going online on Tuesday.
Doug, let's say you have 1,990,000 successful transactions. You have 10,000 unsuccessful transactions. We're going to hear a lot about those 10,000 unsuccessful transactions, probably more so. How does your side combat this issue?
Well, that's kind of been the
Let's say you have 1% of problems that are going to get blown up.
Well, but that's been the story of the whole health care
debate. If it is
the last 3 years, right? We don't hear a lot about the 15 million young kids who have insurance under their parents' plan. We don't hear about the small businesses who have tax credits. We don't hear about the kids who have pre-existing conditions who have health care now. We don't hear a lot about that because a lot of it's focused on the process. And, you know, I'll readily admit that Democrats, you know, we fell down because we got the focus of the health care debate became the sausage-making process. Now, what the president needs to do is focus on the individual components of the plan that have been popular throughout. And I think he's also going to point to a lot of the people who are going to get coverage after October 1st, beginning in January, as examples of this plan working. And the reality is the Republicans have not presented an alternative plan. Their alternative is basically get rid of Obamacare, voucherize Medicare, and let 35, 40 million people go without care.
Well, the Conservative caucus actually just introduced a bill that's an alternative
But I think, don't you think that is a little late, though? That has been a big problem, don't you think?
That is late, but I mean, again, the Paul Ryan plan was the alternative plan that we've been talking about for 4 years.
You and I, not to show our age a little bit here, but you and I remember the Medicare Part D. And I remember at this point in time, literally days before it was rolled out, disaster was predicted. I mean, it was one of David Seamus's point earlier this morning, and I do remember that. There were just a lot of predictions of doom and gloom, and then I walked into my CVS, and it seemed like they were handing out brochures and everything was going swimming.
And after a little while, after all the kinks got worked out, it started to work, paying for it a different matter. But I have to say, I think what the White House is banking on, to your point about the 10,000 who don't get it, is people hearing stories of other people they know. And this kind of grassroots effort has worked for them in the past. If anyone can pull that off, it's them. And so they can't wait for it to just start working. Maybe not October so much as January, when it really starts to take effect and people can talk about it and share their good stories.
Oh, all right. I have to go to shameless plugs. Mattie?
Causeofaction.org. It is a nonpartisan journalist watchdog. They're doing some good stuff on Virginia race, so check them out.
We will take a look.
Maryland Attorney General Doug Gansler announced his campaign for governor this week. He's on a 17-stop tour.
So I take it you have a preference in this primary?
Yeah, you'd say that.
All right, I won't talk to the lieutenant governor then, huh? And Ms. Kornblut.
And the Washington Post today, we have a look at 8 different people and how they will be affected by the health care law.
A very good way to do it. We got a big health care week coming up at all the NBC News platforms starting next week. That's it for this edition of the Daily